What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some very important levels to watch for and what's happening for tomorrow, as I have a big warning for everyone. But please note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. Anyways, now let's talk about the markets. So, looking at Tesla and the way the market is moving, we got this nice pump in the morning as Nvda was getting bought back up. But then I warned everyone that, hey, even though the market's getting bought back up, and this was in my previous video if you guys watched it, I said the market's at some tough resistance, especially if you look at where SPY was right here. Every single time thes last few weeks, SPY's hit 562 to 563. Around that area, we do tend to get rejections. It happened one, two, three, basically four times if you include like the earlier hours. So, we keep rejecting off that area, and I said to be careful on SPY. If we reject off that area, we'd be looking for a dip again, and if we broke through this, we could have run. But we were at some very, very tough resistance, and if the market did get some kind of rejection, Tesla would follow that trend. So that's what happened thus far. We did get that rejection. Tesla's now following the trend. So the question is, what happens from here? And the answer is there's something else very important for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Friday, August 30th, 2024. Please remember that we have the PCE data report coming out an hour before the market opens. And this is going to be very important because it's very similar to CPI. And it may cause the market to either gap up or gap down by a large extent. And just because we gap up, it doesn't mean we're just going to keep running. We could gap up, run, and then dump again, like SPY has been doing for the last few days, kind of pumping and dumping. Or we could just see a rug pull. So you never know, guys, what's going to happen. Just remember the market has lots of manipulation, especially on Fridays. And we just saw the epitome of what this manipulation could be like, right? So we had Nvidia, right? Nvidia, for example, it just shows how manipulated the market could be. We got this huge dump despite having pretty good earnings, in my opinion. And then what do they do? The next day they pump it like crazy. So we dumped 7% yesterday. Then today they pump it up 5%. So that means we were down overall only 2%, and then they dump it again after that, and now we're back to being down like almost 6%. So it just shows how this manipulation was playing out. That's how the market kind of pumped and dumped, and it's also because of many different factors like the algorithms that were taking over. So with that being said, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to gap up or gap down, and if you hold anything overnight in a typical equities account, then you're gonna be in a position where you have to hold through this. And if you do hold through this, you never know what's gonna happen. So if you're holding, like for example, Tesla calls or Tesla puts just for overnight positions, I would recommend being very careful. Even though the share price does look a little bit weaker, we are making lower highs and lower lows. I would still recommend to be careful because with PCE data, you never know what's going to happen. And technical analysis is only half sufficient when you have so much data coming out. So, that being said, it's your choice, whatever you guys want to do. You could make crazy money if you do hold something overnight, but I personally like to be very careful on days like this. So, what's happening with Tesla? So, Tesla has this new looking wedge that's forming, and you could see how Tesla was trying to break through this, only to kind of reject. I mentioned to everyone I was trying to push a little bit in this like 210 area. I said if we do go higher, we had to hold above 212 to turn back up, and if we didn't do so, there'd be a risk of this rejecting. We pushed only to get this rejection, and then we returned back down towards this 206 area. Our target's gonna be 205 down here. Not to mention 202. We also have this resistance at 208, so you can see how this is really playing out. We need to break past the 210s to really start pushing. And I'm sorry, the 212s to really start pushing. Break 212, otherwise we're going to be dipping. So right now, it looks like we're dipping. We could get closer to 205s. I'm seeing a weakness building on Tesla, and it's having a big effect on, it's being affected by the whole market. So you want to be very careful. Now, with that being said, whether or not we continue this dump depends on PCE data tomorrow. So be prepared for that. And if you're holding overnight, just be very careful. For Nvidia is in a critical position. We're going to be watching to see if we could hold or close below the 200 EMA at 117.6. If we lose this, it's not the end of the world. It's going to depend on the data. But if we close below that's two times in a row, despite the data, then that's going to be a bearish signal for Nvidia, and this could even dump more down to about 114, and even the gap fill down to about 109. If we close above it and if we even get a rebound thanks to PCE, we could return to about the 122 area. But for now, I am seeing a weakness building on Nvidia, and there is a risk of more downside. For Bitcoin, We pumped only to get this huge rejection. We have 60,500 as resistance. Our support is at 58,000. So far, I'm seeing weakness building, so this may start to dip lower. So be very careful as we progress. And we'll be watching to see how this ends up moving. We're kind of range bound. Whether or not we make a big move depends on the PCE report. So we'll see how things go. For SPY, lo and behold, this was a good one to be trading because I called out 562 to 563. Look at all these areas where SPY was rejecting these last couple of weeks, right? Right here, it was at 562, 563, 562, 563. 562 is here, 563. We rejected it every single time we hit that range for the last couple of weeks. Now, when we hit this resistance today, I warned everyone to be careful, and as a result, we got this big rejection. So now we're looking at 558 as our supports. Our main resistance is going to be at 559.23, our 20 EMA, followed by 560. And the support to watch for is at 558. If we don't hold this, we could dip all the way down to basically 556. So we are seeing a weakness on SPY since it pumped and dumped, but whether or not this continues depends on the PCE report. We're not officially super bearish unless we close below 555, at least for 2 sessions in a row. And we can't turn super bullish unless we really break resistance. Otherwise, we're just range bound for now. So we'll see what PCE data causes. Be open minded for that. Same thing with ES. We had this very, very nice structure at 5650. We tend to get these rejections. We have the support at 5600. We've been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. If we lose 5600, we'll be looking for 5580. So just be careful as we are completely range bound. So give this the time it needs. For NQ, NQ is also rejecting right if you're making lower highs. There is a risk of this dipping lower. We have 19,400 as our support, not to mention resistance at about 19,500. We're kind of range bound as well on this. There is a risk of it dipping lower if we don't hold our 200 EMA and if we get some negative reactions tomorrow. So be very careful with it. For the QQQ, we pumped in dumps today. We have our main support at 468, our 200 EMA, and the resistance is going to be at 472. Make sure you watch for those levels. We'll see which way we break. We are dipping right now, but that doesn't guarantee anything for tomorrow. It depends on PCE data. So with the weakness building, we'll be watching to see if we can hold above our 200 EMA or not, that 468 area. For now, we're just kind of stuck, and we'll have to see what happens tomorrow with the data. For Aapl, we pumped very nicely, but I said we have to hold above 232 to remain bullish. If we lost that, we're going to be dipping down to 230. Those were my exact words, and that's what happened. We ended up losing supports. So if 230 does not hold us, we could be dipping back down to 228. And like I said before, it depends on the data, which is why I'm not as certain. But I noticed we have this gap down here, so that makes me concerned that Aapl may end up dipping. For others out there, like the IWM Russell 2000, we had a pump and dump like move. We're going to be looking at this trend line as our main support. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. If we lose this, we'll be dipping back down lower. So I'll be watching to see this 217 area to see if we hold or not. So be very, very careful. We are going to likely dip closer to it, and we'll see what the reaction is depending on the data. Coin is barely holding 188, our support. If we lose that, we could be dipping all the way down to the gap support at 183, followed by the gap fill for 179. For Amazon, we're kind of rejecting right over here. There could be a dip coming. We have kind of like a head and shoulders like structure. This does have a risk of dipping lower towards 169. So we'll see how things go. For Meta, we have a bearish divergence, excuse me, and we have a tendency of kind of rejecting off every single one of these pops. So we need to get back above 524 to turn back up. Otherwise, we're at risk of dipping towards the 512 area, followed by, I would say we'd be dipping all the way down to this 200 EMA if we lose that. So you want to be very careful. 505 would be our next target if we lose 512. But for now, we're going to be watching to see what the reaction is with PCE. It is looking kind of bearish, though. Same thing with Microsoft. We're kind of rejecting a lot. We got to reclaim 415 tomorrow. If we don't reclaim that, we're at risk of dumping down towards 408 or below. We got to reclaim basically 166 on Google. Otherwise, we're going to continue to dump. And that's what's happening so far. We're barely holding 163 as support. If that doesn't hold us, we're going to likely dip to 162 and eventually much lower levels. So just be open minded, guys. Be very prepared for what's about to come, and we'll see how things go. So as you can see, the market is looking weaker. We're seeing weakness building. We're seeing a big slowdown. But we can't turn too bearish or be too bullish. We have to be unbiased because we have some very, very big data coming out, and that's going to affect whether or not the Fed, or it's going to affect how the Fed looks at things. So it's going to affect whether or not the market gaps up or down, and it's going to affect the Fed's policies, which is very important. So get ready for this data. It comes out an hour before market open. I'll talk about that tomorrow before the market opens. I'll also give you guys one more update video in just a couple of hours, so be prepared. As far as Tesla goes, I'm seeing a weakness building right now. It's still rejecting off every single one of these pops. Just delete all the lines and look at this, right? We pumped and rejected, pumped and rejected, pumped and rejected, pumped and rejected. So it's just continuing to do this, which shows weakness and a downtrend. So far, Tesla is bearish in terms of its direction. Whether or not we continue this bearish move could be dependent on the data tomorrow. So we will wait and see. With that being said, I want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. Please have a great day. I'll see you guys in a few hours, and peace out.